Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. It is 9:34 exactly, and we move on to a very worrying story. We're going to be talking with Parliamentary Coordinator of COSATU, that is Matthew Parks, and the story that I'm referring to, which is very troubling indeed, is the fact that COSATU has noted with alarm that reports of the unemployment insurance fund was fleeced of about 1.7 billion rands, not million, B for Bertie, 1.7 billion rands through very questionable investments. Let's talk with Matthew Park and see what on earth is going on and what is COSATU's stance on this very, very serious situation. Matthew Parks, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Serious indeed, isn't it? Another situation very similar to a state capture scenario. What is COSATU's stance on this, and what is the PIC saying about the matter? Because certainly you're wanting answers from them. You are talking on behalf of millions of people who have paid UIF and millions of employers who've paid their contribution as well.
Yes, no, it's quite worrying. These are workers' monies, and it's a significant amount of money. We're talking about 1.7 billion rand, invested in two investments in one company based in Britain. And the media reports paint a very alarming picture that this money was simply stolen, chowed, disappeared. Um, so I think for us, number one, is this is money that belongs to workers. Workers and employers contribute to the unemployment insurance fund. It's a significant amount of money. The UF has really struggled over the past 2 years of COVID-19 when we needed to release money to help workers. And this money could have gone a long way, could have helped over
Absolutely.
22,000 workers on unemployment benefits. So I think for us, number one, we are meeting with the Unemployment Insurance Fund and hopefully the PIC quite soon in the next few days to hear from them what exactly has happened. Number one, why did this thing happen in the first place if the media reports are accurate? I think, but also more importantly, is that what are they doing to recover that money? Because this is money that belongs to workers, and we appreciate it might be difficult if money's been dispensed to shareholders of companies. But then, what number three is what are they doing legally to recover this money and to prosecute
Okay.
the offending persons if they are
Mhm.
guilty? And I think because it's a company in Britain, obviously you need to involve the British authorities, Interpol, etc. But whatever it is, action needs to be happen. The guilty held accountable and money recovered.
Okay, this is worrying indeed. And as always, when you have these type of stories breaking, sometimes a lot of sensationalism creeps in. I'm part of media as well, so I know that sometimes we do get a bit carried away. In this respect, has COSATU and other powers that be checked out that isn't sensationalism involved here, and the amount we're talking about is indeed 1.77 billion rands. Also, shortly after these investments were made in these offshore companies, that taxpayer shareholders of that particular company was immediately paid out 530 million rands to those company shareholders. Do we know who they are? Have we asked them for some sort of right to reply?
Yes. So look, we are meeting with the UIF colleagues. We've secured a meeting last night with them for I think next week Wednesday morning to hear what exactly is the situation. And yes, there could be distortion, there could be inaccuracies, there could be misunderstandings in the media. But nonetheless, whatever the story is, it is a worrying one. We hope that it could be proven not to be true. That'd be fantastic, great. But if we suspect that if it is true, then we'd want to hear what is the action being taken to recover the monies, to hold the guilty parties accountable, to put in place mechanisms to prevent a recurrence of such incidences in future. Having said, it also takes in the background what we saw in COVID-19, when the UF did very well to release about 64 billion rand to help 5.5 million workers to have a salary to feed the families to help keep these companies afloat. Even then, there were individuals in the UF and outside the UF who took a gap and took money for store money. The UF has managed to prosecute some of these people, bring them to court. Some convictions have already taken place. Some people have already been sentenced to prison. Money's been recovered. I think about 3 billion rand over money which was stolen during COVID-19 has been recovered. So that's a positive thing. Of course, we also remember that the PIC itself had a commission of inquiry appointed by the president, by Judge Ampati, um, a few years ago, about I think 4 years ago, thereabouts, because the PIC invests the UIF, it invests the compensation of injury on duty insurance funds, it invests the government employee pension fund. So it's a very big investment fund, about 2.3 trillion rand. Um, and it was serious allegations of monies being stolen left, right, and center, of politically connected persons, unscrupulous people in business, people in government stealing the money, whether it's money from the UIF or the GPF or Quota. There was so much allegations, and then many of them have been proven to be true. So this does feed into a context of that. So, but I think for us, we do welcome, and we know we're not blind that there has been money stolen. There is still being money stolen. But I think for us, what's critical is that the UFT colleagues take us into account what's going on and what are they doing to prevent such things from happening again in the future. What are they doing to recover the money and to go after the implicated officials.
I also understand that the initial investigations have revealed the involvement of politically connected individuals and also bank accounts in offshore tax havens, pointing to a possible massive money laundering scheme. Are you aware of that, and how you're going to hold the UIF officials and these politically connected individuals to account? They need to be held to account. And if the story does prove to be true, or rather the amount, there's no smoke without fire, the amount may not be 1.77 billion, but it is obviously running into hundreds of thousands of millions of rands. Do you think that you will be able to recover these monies because they are in offshore tax havens? And it also seems as if a British company is involved here. Does that mean that it's going to be that much more difficult to unravel this very complicated issue around how the money was when people want to hide money and when people want to launder money, we know that they use all sorts of nefarious means to hide and to cover their tracks. So this is going to be a long ongoing investigation. In the meantime, what does it happen to people who want to claim UIF benefits?
Yeah. Look, in the meantime, people who claim UIF benefits would be given the money that is owed to them. That can't be a question. The UF does have sufficient funds available, so
Ah,
the liquidity is not an issue. But the benefits, so when the UF invests funds, it's not investing Matthew's funds or Mohammed's funds, it's investing in UF funds.
okay.
So if I go and claim my 6 months, 12 months unemployment benefits, or if I'm a mother and I want to go and claim my 4 months maternity leave benefits, the UF calculates how much have you contributed, what's your salary level. There's a calculation, a formula which determines how much you are entitled to receive over how many months. You'll receive that money because all the funds, the 148 rand or the 175 rand each of us contributes every month to the UF goes into one general kitty, which is then invested by the PIC. So even if some money might have been lost here or there, some money might be legitimately lost in bad investments. You invest in a company, the company collapses, the product doesn't sell, you know? So
Mm.
there is sufficient liquidity to make sure that when John or whomever goes to claim the monies, they are sorted out. But it doesn't mean that we must tolerate corruption or mismanagement. Um, and of course, we need to ensure the UF overall funds are healthy and are growing to make sure that it's sustainable for when John does come and claim his little monies, that his money, there's sufficient money to assist him in that regard. But you're right. I mean, the articles was pointed to accounts in not just Britain but in Malta, etc. That makes it more complicated to go after. But look, international criminal syndicates are not new. The South African Police Service, the National Prosecuting Authority, have to engage with Interpol. They've got to get Interpol's assistance, and Interpol will go and talk to the British authorities, the Maltese authorities, to see what can be done. Of course, you may very well find that these people, if they're smart criminals, they would go and take the money somewhere else and run away and try to disappear. So it means government must move with speed before this thing disappears. And there are times we have been frustrated, like with the Guptas. We could see the Guptas are planning to run the country. The NPA just sat on its hands for, was it 5 years ago of that December period. At least now we've seen the NPA going, through Interpol, getting the Guptas detained in the United Arab Emirates, and hopefully they will have done the work to get them extradited to South Africa. So I think there's that saying, the wheels of justice move slowly, but they must move, and we hope they'll move efficiently and competently in South Africa's case. But we also hope they will not move too slowly.
Absolutely. Finally, we understand that there's this dubious company called Bounty Brand Holdings. They in the United Kingdom, together with obviously politically connected individuals. Do we know who these individuals are? And does it also then suggest that the people in the PIC have let down the UIF? Because they were actually managing the funds in terms of investing, etc. So there must be insider, people inside the PIC that have been working with these politically connected individuals. And who is Bounty Brand Holdings in the United Kingdom?
Um, I have no idea who this company is. I never heard of them before in my life. Um, But I think it does point to a worrying indication. How were they selected? Because I think we've seen too often companies with no track record mysteriously appear, come knocking on the door of the PIC, which is workers' monies, and want to help themselves. They provide very little economic product. We see no jobs being created, no value added to the economy. We see no return on investments to the depositors, which is the UIF or the GEPF or the compensation fund. So I think that for us is quite worrying. But look, there's a new leadership team in the PIC, which is very competent. They were appointed a few years ago. A new board has been appointed, and they are actually working quite hard to clean up the rot in the PIC, which we saw under the previous administration. There's been quite a few dismissals of very senior people in the PIC who are found to have mismanaged or to be implicated in wrongdoing. We've seen quite a few prosecutions being undertaken with regards to some of the UIF funds. So that's positive, and it must be accelerated. Must get to more. And we also had amended the PIC Act at Parliament in 2018 to require that all the investments by the PIC, be it listed or unlisted, be disclosed to the public. So the media, members of the public can see it on the website, must be disclosed to Parliament, to Treasury, to the depositors, which is the workers' investment funds, insurance funds. But also the investments must be on a certain criteria. They must help to grow the investments. That's the pensioners' money, the workers' money. They must help to support job creation, local economic development, sustainable development, etc. We put all of those there to try to make it more difficult to steal. And so when you see this kind of suspicious money investment schemes, we can now ask the PIC to say exactly how did this measure up to the investment criteria provided for in law? Does it help create jobs? Does it grow pension funds? If it doesn't, then they need to explain. Somebody must be held accountable.
Absolutely, Matthew. This is a developing story. Undoubtedly, we will be talking to you in the coming days. You go well. Thank you indeed for being with us on the show this morning. Okay, it is 9:47 exactly. In a minute or two, we'll be joined by Head of Rural Development and Social Investment at Agri SA Enterprises, Suleiman Patel, to talk to us about food security or food insecurity. It depends how you refer to it. And obviously, that will be the last interview on News and Views this morning on Salam Media. Please do stand by.